What's going on, guys? Welcome to PIREP Aviation, two regular Joes who love flying. Sean, we're here. We took a little delay off of just things, and I took a couple trips with the airplane up to Minnesota.
You've been traveling.
I have been. I've been using the snot out of my plane.
It's good. Good.
I love it. I love it. And so what have you been doing?
Enduring the heat.
Yeah, dude. I was up in Minnesota, and it was like 54 degrees when you wake up, and
it's unbelievable right now. I mean, this is like 1980.
It's bad, and
it's bad.
We're getting 1980. I was
you were a little baby then.
I
mean, I wasn't old, but
in 1980 I was 4 years pre-birth.
Well.
So anyway, up in Minnesota, it was so calm and dry, like just it rained all the time. It was kind of like, man, it felt like, what are those places like? Not the Amazon, but where it rains in the morning, kind of like Seattle, right? It just rains a little bit and then boom, you're moving on and your day
tropical
is great.
climates.
Yeah,
you know?
it was awesome, and it would rain for like an hour, and that was it, and everything is green and beautiful, and then
I mean the pictures were incredible.
As we flew down, once we got to like mid-Oklahoma, everything started turning brown. And then we got to Texas.
Hit the line, and now it's boiling lava.
It was really cool to see. Michelle pointed this out yesterday, a couple days ago, rather. We flew down to Austin, to Horseshoe Bay, and just for some golf and just a retreat type thing. Anyway, the point is, she pointed out these really cool things of how you could see the underground riverbeds. Because you could see the trees.
Oh, yeah.
Everything is so dry, yet the trees just kind of vined out and rooted out. It was really cool, especially around Whitney area.
I've never noticed that.
Yeah, I've never either, and she pointed out, and it was pretty cool. But she saw it as you would travel from the Oklahoma area, and everything started turning brown because it wasn't one color.
That's cool.
But, so it's been fun, man. But what are we going to talk about today, man?
We are going to talk about Oshkosh hacks.
Love Oshkosh.
You know, it's Oshkosh season, and
it is.
I'll be heading up Sunday.
Okay.
And so we figured we'd share with everybody all the little things we've learned over the years. Not necessarily anything, over the top, but there's some cool little perks, ideas, strategies.
I've been going since I was.
You've been going forever.
Since 1988.
Yep.
So since I was about 4. I have been going. My parents have been going since 1979 or 1980. That's when my dad bought his first kit airplane, and So I mean, I've done almost everything.
You've done quite a few. You kind of grew up there. You know?
Yeah.
My first year, I think it was 2011, and that was an interesting year. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, I've had some good years. I've had some odd years, and I've had some really fun. But yeah, let's just get into it. So Oshkosh hacks, man, it's a week and a half away. Almost 2 weeks away.
Well,
no, it's a week away. It's not even a week away.
It's not even a week away. It starts Monday. It's coming.
I really want to go. We're going to Mexico instead, and I really am not excited about missing Oshkosh. There's years you go and you're like, I've seen it. My dad, he's been going since 79. He missed 1 year plus a year when 2020, right? So I'm really kind of sad that I'm missing it. And then last week, what happened? I got some friends of ours that are going to Mexico. They're like, hey, we can't go. And I kind of got excited.
You almost had a chance.
She saw my smile on my face, and she's like, you're just happy. And I said, I am. Mm-hmm. And then we were planning it, and then all of a sudden we get a text saying, hey, we're back on. We're just going to go to Mexico. So I'm excited for it, but I really, after having the 182 back, I want to go, but you'll go for me. So I'll be there.
It'll be an interesting year. I'm not flying up there. I'm flying up there, but I'm not doing the flying. I'm actually flying with a buddy of mine that wanted to go last year. He was going to follow us up. Well, no, you drove last year.
Yeah.
I flew the Panther last year. Yep. He was going to follow me, but relatively new pilot, and he just wasn't comfortable with it. So I got a hold of him this year because I knew my plane was probably going to still be in avionics. Told him, hey, if you want to go, I'll fly right seat. I've done it a handful of times, and I'll kind of.
Have you ever flown right seat to Oshkosh?
No, I haven't.
No, So it'll be a first.
It's always been left seat.
Well, let's talk about the transportation, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Oshkosh hack number one. Number one is transportation.
Transportation.
Getting to
How are you going to get there?
Oshkosh.
And of course, the fun one is flying your own airplane up there.
Yes.
That's what everybody wants to do,
It's
but
an
it's not.
It's an aviation bucket list.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily what everybody can do.
Yeah.
So there's other ways to do it quite effectively. One of which is just flying commercial.
Yeah.
So what I did actually was it my first year? First year or last year? Anyway,
It was not last year.
no. Well, second time I went to Oshkosh, I flew commercial to Milwaukee.
Okay.
And actually stayed with a friend in Milwaukee. And when she was at work, I took
How
her
far is
car.
Milwaukee?
It was about a
Hour and a
45-minute hour
Really?
drive.
Yeah, it's
Maybe
about-
an hour. Maybe
It's about an hour and a half.
No, it was about an hour for me. Wasn't my car.
Go the speed limit.
But
wasn't
yeah,
my
so
car.
anyway, so I would drive up every morning, just commute, and did the show. I think I did the show by myself 2 days.
Okay.
And then the last day, Melanie and Shay
By
went with me.
yourself.
Yeah, just by myself.
You're
Just
one of
drove up.
those.
Yeah, I'm not scared. So yeah, so that was one way to do it.
Okay.
A lot of people will drive or fly into Chicago, Milwaukee, Appleton, and rent a car. The thing you've got to be careful about is car rentals up there. They gouge for this
the
week.
prices up.
It's
Hotels.
it's crazy.
Everything is super expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And to try to find them, you have to do that quite advanced, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, but they know that week of Oshkosh.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's already.
It's like golf carts.
It literally might be, I don't know, pre-COVID, at least it was like $125 to rent a car for a week. And during Oshkosh, it's like $1,400.
And it's probably a smart car.
Yeah.
You can
Dumb
fit
car.
it in your pocket.
Yeah.
All right, so flying commercial.
Flying
is a way
commercial
up there.
obviously.
It's probably the easiest and quickest-ish.
If you have a car.
Yeah.
Now, there are shuttle buses from, I believe, there's one that runs from Milwaukee up to Oshkosh. And then the surrounding airports, they've got the shuttle buses and stuff. I've never taken one of those, so I really don't know anything about them, but that's one way.
I know Fond du Lac has one.
Yeah.
For sure. But it's yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk Fond du Lac. So you can actually fly in to Fond du Lac with your own personal plane and camp there, and then they shuttle from Fond du Lac.
I think this year, no more camping.
Dun dun dun. Probably too many airplanes.
I don't know. I think I read, I'm pretty sure that you can't camp at Fond du Lac this year. But it is a great place to park and catch a bus. So if you're not up for flying into, actual Oshkosh and, landing on your dot and all that, Fond du Lac's pretty easy to get into, not nearly as busy. And you can catch the free shuttle back up to Oshkosh. So that's definitely an option. In fact, Scott and I did that one year.
Yeah.
There was a wreck at Oshkosh or something. So we landed in Fond du Lac and just rode the bus up there.
Yeah.
That worked out well.
Yeah, there's so many options.
There are.
And we're going to try to get them all. I, for one, grew up taking a vehicle. And
The big vehicle.
Yeah, and so no RV. Back in the day, there weren't as many RVs. There were mostly tents. And so maybe I was just in a tent and I didn't recognize the RVs, but RVs were not as popular back then as they are now. And so back in the day when you did not have to wear a seatbelt, we sat, all four of us, in the back of a little Nissan pickup truck with a topper and put a bunch of pillows and blankets and stuff in the back, and we drove 9.5 hours from Minnesota to Oshkosh. And then we got there and we plopped out a tent and endured the rain. It always rains at Oshkosh, it seems like. But man, that was fun. Those were just some really good memories.
Yeah.
And then they ended up getting a 1959 Bethany pop-up camper, and all 6 of us stayed in that camper for a long time, many years.
Wow.
And but we always just went. It was either going to grandma's or go to Oshkosh.
Yeah.
So that's another way to get there is you drive. You can tent, and then a lot of people do it. Man, there's a guy that the last 4 years we've been camping in the same spot, and we usually go up in an RV. But he rents a U-Haul. And
the guy that parks out on the road?
Yep, he rents a U-Haul and camps in the back of the U-Haul.
That's an interesting hack.
It's pretty cool. I mean, everything's there. You got your vehicle. If you need to leave, you drive off. It's not giant. It's usually one of those
big
small
enough.
10 or 12 foot
waterproof.
boxes. Yep. It's waterproof. If it storms and rains, which it does sometimes, it's actually pretty.
It's
a pretty genius idea.
That's a good idea.
So the tenting, the camping, like I said, we go up now that we have a family. I have 3 kids and my wife. We've gone up in motorhomes, which I personally like. We usually trailer because you need transportation when you're camping. It's a long walk.
Yeah, and we'll get to that in a minute because that's a whole subcategory in itself.
But man, amongst the camping, like the RV camping is just it's an experience. Just like flying in is an experience.
Yeah.
I think for me that I've just always done that. So it's super fun. My family comes from different areas and we can multi-camp.
Right. Yeah. You guys have a little compound set up.
We do have a compound.
And it's actually really cool because the very first year that I went, we drove from Fort Worth all the way up there and drove it straight through, which was brutal. But, and we camped, which we'll get to that in a minute too. But it wasn't near like your camping.
We're kind of like, it's glamping. The compound is, there's 3 of us, my parents, my sister, and then ourselves. And we'll have this kind of like a courtyard.
It's like circling the wagons on the old Oregon Trail.
So my dad will show up and he'll rope off. You're supposed to, there's rules. People bend them sometimes, but there are rules, and so he ropes off, and it's legitimate. We try to get there
because he would get there real early. He would be there days.
He'll get there the Wednesday night before the show starts.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of spots available, so he'll rope it off, and legitimately we take up the space because a lot of vehicles show up with campers and stuff. So we had 3 of us, and we had this little courtyard where we create food stations and so on and so forth. And we always typically park in the same location. And this year, even though we're not going, some of the people that we've met are always in that same area. Right. And so you build this community at Oshkosh. You'll never talk to them the whole year. Sometimes you do, but you may never talk to them. They come from Texas.
Yeah, they fly that Texas flag.
Texas is one of the only states that you'll see a flag flying above an airplane or an RV. You don't see that. You don't see Oklahoma being like,
true.
It's interesting, but you'll have the Texas flag, and we always raise ours and bring ours as well. But
it's funny too. You talk about the people, and that's what I've noticed over the years with Oshkosh. At first it was all about the airplanes, and as you go so many times, I mean, there's cool stuff to look at. Don't get me wrong, but it's more about the people. It's more about seeing your friends that you only see that year, that homecoming for Oshkosh, which is kind of cool.
It is like a homecoming. It's really interesting. There are people that I've met when I was a kid that still show up, and you just walk around, and you're like, and you go to their same spot because they're
always
same
there.
Camping spot. It's a habit. Like it's a habitual thing. You go there, you want to be around the same people. You get together. So
you've got your little community. They're like little cities.
And EAA chapters can reserve spots,
a block area
and a block off area. And she had texted me and said, "Hey, we're going, and we can get so many spots. Would you like to camp with us?" And unfortunately, we're not going this year. Neither are my parents. We kind of had a little mini one at my parents' house. It was cool. They had 13 airplanes that flew in, float planes, and a twin into their little private 2,000-foot strip. And
that'll be a whole nother podcast in
it
itself.
Will. It was so much fun. But so the camping. There's camping. There's the flying commercially. Then we have the driving, which is not near as fun.
No, not near as fun. The only good thing about driving is then you have your vehicle there.
Yep.
So if you're not camping, like if you're staying at the dorms or an Airbnb or whatever, you've got a vehicle. Yeah. And that's pretty nice.
I've driven just a vehicle, and then my parents were camping as well. When I was younger, back in 2002, I remember it was the centennial year for Orville and Wilbur, right? In 2? Oh gosh,
I don't
I'm an
remember.
aviation pilot, and I don't know.
2003.
1903.
Yeah, there.
Okay, so follow us at PIREP Aviation. No, so 2003 was the centennial, and I remember driving my Ford Explorer, and I had two 12-inch subs in the back, and I remember irritating people. But my mirror was my shaving, was my brushing my teeth, was my everything. But it was fun. I didn't sleep in it. I had a tent. But I've driven with my family where my parents brought and pitched a tent. It's really nice having people go in front of you when you go camp.
Yeah.
Because they bring stuff.
Yep.
And you don't have to. So we went, and then after we did that with kids and we were in tents, we're like, heck no, we're never doing this again. So the following year we bought a motorhome, and that was awesome. That was super fun. But we needed transportation to get there. And so that's a little different. Sometimes you trailer things. Sometimes you have your friend trailer things. Sometimes
Which
you
is
rent.
Another secret hack.
Sometimes you do other things. But yeah, the camping, it's big. It's big. There's so many things to do. And when you say, okay, you RV camp, I am used to camping with hookups. Do they have hookups?
No,
They don't.
they don't.
There are locations where they have electric and water.
Yeah. Sleepy Hollow.
If you're a vendor, they have hookups. Or if you're a volunteer that's
Right.
going to be there for months at a time.
So you're basically boondocking it,
you're dry camping.
but
right?
you've got water close that you can have brought
What's
over.
amazing with Oshkosh is they actually have a location for a dump station. They have a dump station there with water. They have your gray and black, and there's actually I don't remember how many spots. It's all a blur when you're doing it because you just want to get in and get out. But there's several spots, so you could, if you wanted to, pick up, drive over there, dump. It's
come
donation
back.
only, and come back and park back in your spot. But as the show progresses, the camping spots become tighter and tighter and tighter. Usually by Tuesday, that week of Tuesday, or the Tuesday of the week of the show, it's really, really packed. And it goes far,
Right.
far out there. So there is dump sites and water. We usually bring 5-gallon water jugs to fill up our tanks if we're going to be
So
cheap.
you actually use everything in the RV.
Oh,
then.
yeah.
See, I would think you're so close to the community showers and all that stuff. It would be just easier.
So we camped last year down at the coast. Before then was Oshkosh. Usually when you go camp, you're like, I'm done camping. I don't want to camp again for a while. And so I remember going down to the coast, and the kids were like, hey, Daddy, can we use as much water as we can? Is what we want.
Because they were hooked up.
Because they're hooked up. It's very different. So yeah, you're right. We do it differently. I'll use the showers. I'll use the bathrooms, outhouses, not outhouses.
Outhouses.
They're porta johns,
Outhouses,
basically.
basically.
Outhouses. But they clean them. They clean them a lot. And so
Yeah.
the other option, if you're worried about gray tank and black tank and water, they have a truck that you go in the morning before or the day before, and you can actually purchase them to come out. And they give you a green or an orange or whatever sticker, and you put it on your camper, and they come by and they empty it for you, and then they fill up your water. Whatever you want, they empty it and they fill it up. You don't even have to be there. It's actually pretty fantastic and convenient.
Yeah.
So we try to go in there with the idea of just doing it once because it does cost a little more than you would anticipate. But again, it's convenience.
Right.
And so we do it one time, but knowing, hey, I'm going to shower here. I let the girls go to the bathroom and shower and stuff like that. But anyway, so that's camping in a whole. So you can rent, again, electric and water sites, but no sewage. Those I've never done. I've heard they're amazing, but they're tighter. They're very organized, so it's not like you can build a community around it.
Right,
You're
right.
literally lined up in a row. However, it's not like you show up with regular camping. You can just show up and pay for it, and that's it.
Yeah, these others, it's a reservation deal, and you're probably going to have to reserve it at about a year ahead of time.
A lot of times, it's not even a year. It's they open it up, and I don't remember the exact date, but it's usually like the last week of June or the first week of July. What happens is you reserve that spot, but you pay for it the day you reserve it. So if it's July 2nd and the show starts July 26th, you are paying whatever it is per night from July 2nd all the way through the last day of the show.
Oh, wow.
That's where they get you. And again, it's fine. People do it. And so it's around $1,200 to $1,500 for the month. So some people actually bring their camper up July 2nd and they let it sit there. and everything's there. Now, if you're local and close, it makes sense.
Yeah.
For us Texas people, it does not. But yeah, so that's it. So they have improved sites. They have generator areas, no generator areas. The generators have to be shut off at 11 p.m. From 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. So it's not noisy at night. It does get warm. But yeah, there's a lot of, I mean, the camping spot, I've done a lot of it. So we've brought generators, we've brought everything where it runs. And now with the new trucks, we got new.
Yeah, with the power boost.
Boost.
You can run your camper.
Kind of excited
Yeah,
for that.
And it's quiet.
It is quiet.
So you might even be able to run it all
potentially
night,
run it all night.
and they would never know.
But yeah, so I mean, there's so much involved with that. But yeah.
So I mean, tent camping.
Yeah.
You can camp with your airplane. You can camp in amongst the RVs.
I've never camped under a wing at Oshkosh.
I've never camped under a wing, and I never will camp under a wing.
I will. I'm going to bring my family next year, the 182, and we're going to camp under the wing.
Well, all I know,
Good luck.
First year I camped, and I may have left the windows of the tent open when an afternoon storm came through, soaking wet. It was awful. So I swore never to camp again. And all I know is somehow I was convinced to camp with you guys last year. So
it was
Cody
great.
had the RV, OK Corral, everything all set up, awesome campsite. And I flew in and I pitched my tent right there. It was awesome until the mother of all storms decided to come. So I ended up spending the last 2 nights on your recliner in the RV because all my stuff was soaked.
Well,
so I think my camping days at Oshkosh are over.
It rained, and then it dried out, and then it rained again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was real mushy before.
Yeah, and you're like drying stuff out in the tent, and you're on the backside, and it was so bad that they had sirens going off and people driving around saying, "Go to the museum."
Yeah, they rounded everybody
museum.
up to go to the museum and spend the night, which I don't think they've ever done that
Great.
before. People in town,
they
had a Facebook page set up, and people in town were offering their houses for people to come spend the night with them. I mean, it was really cool that the town just rallied.
And
it
here,
was amazing.
and here I am outside the camper taking videos of the cool storm.
Yeah. Well, that's what we do. We're
fantastic.
Texans.
Yeah, it was great. And there's been years, like you look at Son of Fun, they had tornadoes. They've had Oshkosh. It always rains for the most part.
You usually get a day of rain at least.
A couple of years ago, there was a Sloshkosh 2.0. It was so wet that the planes could not fly in. You remember that year? You went with Scott.
Yep.
And
that's the year we stayed in Fond du Lac.
Yep. And my sister came in from Orlando, and they rented an RV, and we got in the day before. It downpoured so much that they were not allowing anybody, airplanes.
That's right. They couldn't even get on the ground.
Campers, nothing in because it was so wet. So people, I remember driving around and taking videos of the lines and the rows of RVs along the service road of the freeway, pitching tents and camping right
on
there,
the access road.
Cooking, everything. It was. I mean, Walmart was filled. Fond du Lac Walmart was filled, and I remember that year my sister ended up getting free tickets because people had showed up and they couldn't get in,
and
they were like, "We're done." So they got improved sites, they got full week bands, everything for free.
That's awesome,
and it was pretty cool. I mean, again, people are just different there.
Yeah, and there's always something's going to happen.
Correct.
I mean, there's just always a twist. It just makes it interesting.
It's a lot of fun. The camping part is a different experience. It takes effort and work. And
if done right, I think RV camping would be really cool.
It is.
I don't want to pull my RV up there yet, but someday I wouldn't mind doing it. I think it'd be kind of cool. Tent camping, it is what it is. I mean, it's always a funny view of all the certified camping areas and home built camping areas after the storm the next morning, and everybody looks like they just lost the war, and they're hanging all their stuff on their wings to
wringing
dry.
Stuff out.
They just look like wet, washed up. I'm okay with that. So my preferred accommodations are the dorms.
Tell us, Sean, your preferred.
I like the dorms.
Yeah.
The what is it? University of Wisconsin and Oshkosh. You can rent their dorm rooms, 2 beds each. They're really inexpensive. I can't remember what the price per night is, but they have regular rooms and air conditioned rooms, and I've stayed in both. In fact, you've shuttled fans up here for me on years that you drove, and I think I stayed in an unair conditioned room probably the first 2 times that I stayed in the dorms. And mainly the reason for that was, everybody talks about if you want an air conditioned dorm, you really need to book it when you're at Oshkosh that year for the following year.
You need air conditioning.
It gets warm. I mean, unless you're just really used to
humid.
it. But, we're from Texas. It's 111 degrees outside right now, and I want an air conditioned room to sleep in.
83 degrees in Wisconsin after it just downpoured the day before.
With 83% humidity.
Is awful.
Yeah.
I mean, you get sunburn. It does. So you want air conditioning.
You want air conditioning.
Yeah.
So here's a little hack. And I just kind of tried this on a whim one year. And so we're checking in.
Wasn't it the year that we flew up there?
I think it was the first year we flew the Panthers.
Yeah, in 17.
Yeah, was it with Scott?
It was with Scott. I
think so. Yeah,
we flew a 3-ship. We flew a 3-ship up there. We left our families behind, and we flew a 3-ship up there all the way into Oshkosh. So it was my first year of flying in, going there forever. I had my little Panther, which is 25 pounds of baggage, and we flew up, and it was awesome.
So we get there. And we're checking in, and I just, on a whim, I'm like, well, do you have any air-conditioned rooms? She's like, yeah, we've got some. And I'm like, well, I want that, And it was quite a bit more expensive. I can't, it's like,
but it wasn't
$125 a night versus like $30 a night.
Yeah, we stayed, I think, 3 nights, and it was like $360.
Yeah, it wasn't
for
bad.
2 of us.
Yeah, and then you split that with whoever you're rooming with. But ever since then, I've always been able to get an air-conditioned room. So I don't book them ahead of time, which, probably would be the best thing. But you'd never know, whether you're going to make it or not. So,
there's no
hopefully
telling.
We'll get one this year as well.
Every year, and that would be good to know, because every year is different, right? 2020, things happened. They didn't have it. Last year, there was well over 600,000 people that showed up to Oshkosh. It's a little event. There was a lot of people. So... Yeah. But there's so many different other ways of staying. Like the dorms, I enjoyed it because it was just me. So we did a lot of stuff. We packed everything into our days. But it was also 6 hours up there instead of my normal 20 hours of driving that takes 2 days. And I'm the one that drives, right? So it's a little different. So flying up there was
relaxing.
That's why I want to fly the 182. After just doing this trip to Minnesota, it's about 150 nautical miles longer, and to Minnesota. So Oshkosh is actually shorter. And I told Michelle, and she goes, "That's it. That's all it is." I'm like,
it's basically the same trip, just a little bit more east.
And my kids made it in a 4.5-hour leg without complaining. And I had an isolate button, but it was awesome. So so flying up there's fun. You get to the dorms. And tell me about...
Once you fly in, obviously if you're driving in, you just go to the dorms. But if you're flying in, you get your plane parked, tie it down, go check in, and then you they've got the little shuttle buses that look like the trolley cars or whatever that constantly go back and forth to the dorms. Yeah. And I think used to be like $1 each way or something like that. It's cheap, and they run about every 15 minutes. So you get that, you go to the dorm, you get checked in. And from the dorm, you're kind of
about 15 minutes.
You're kind of downtown Oshkosh.
It's a 15-minute drive.
But there's places to eat that you can walk to. There's the cafeteria there, which we'll get into that later. But it's a great place to start the day.
I'm hungry right now, and I want to go.
And then you just go down, hop on the bus, takes you to the grounds, and you don't have to worry about it. So for me, the dorms were kind of cool. Because, you're at Oshkosh, you're hot, sweaty, it's on the grass, or you're wet, whatever. You get to come back, you get to take a shower.
A real shower.
A real shower, somewhat real shower. And, you just have some concrete and, you get to detach yourself from the show a little bit. So I always like that.
Well, let's go back into the whole shower thing real quick. Not to get super
Oshkosh
detailed.
hack number 2. Don't forget your shower flip-flops.
Yes. You need some shoe wear.
Something.
In the showers.
The showers, especially the ones. That's a good word. Interesting.
So let's put it this way: the shower head is there is no control.
It's a
of
vegetable
the water.
sprayer.
There's no control of the water temperature. So when you turn
wait. Oshkosh hack number 3: bring a rubber band for the shower head sprayer so you can hold the button down.
The old 90s, like you say, it's a vegetable sprayer, but it
pulls out.
It's a sprayer that pulls out.
The little
has the
lever.
hose. They're just hanging from the ceiling.
Yep.
And it's a there's bays with little shower curtains, and that's
they're
it.
Plastic.
You be prepared to see things, but secondly, the shower head, you have to hold it and then soap and do your thing. So the dorm was a pleasant surprise because it's a real shower.
It's a real shower.
And you can control the temperature. This one, it's either really, really hot or really cold. The key to showering, if you're camping on site, whether it's in an airplane, because they have certain showers.
Yeah, there are some nicer, those Kohler shower
by
trailers.
The showers.
Yep.
But if you're camping in Camp Scholler, bring flip-flops.
Flip-flops for
bring,
sure.
A caddy or something.
Something that you can hang in the shower.
Because I bring a Walmart type bag and put all my stuff in it, and then because it gets wet.
Yeah. See, everywhere. I've got a thing that I took to Ecuador when we would literally bathe in the river, and it's just a nylon strap with a clip, but it's a bag that's mesh, and you can put your soap, shampoo, and everything in there, so you can get that wet, and it'll just hang it in your tent when you get back and let it dry out.
It's the experience.
It is an experience.
The porta potties, the showers. The nice thing is the showers have electrical outlets everywhere. So like there's years where I've brought golf carts and I've plugged it in right there if I didn't have a generator, and it worked perfect. Yeah. So a lot of people plug their cell phones in, so on and so forth.
Yeah, there's thousands of cell phones just plugged in. People leave them there.
The time of day, though, they do clean them usually around 9 to 10 p.m., but the time of day is the latest in the evening. So 10 to 11 p.m., there's hardly anybody in there.
That's what I was writing in my notes here, kind of middle of the day when everybody's at the show, or 11 p.m. to midnight. That's a perfect time to go.
Early morning and you're one of those that showers as a morning person, whatever, have fun.
Yeah. And I'm a morning shower person, but I can't do Oshkosh morning showers.
I'm glad
I will in the dorms.
Yeah.
They're not busy. So.
But no, the dorm experience was fun. Like we'll just recap. I've done driving without tents and stayed in a tent. I've done RV camping. I have flown in, but not camped, but I stayed in a dorm. Mm-hmm. We've had friends that did an Airbnb. They rented a full house.
Yep.
And just had people come in, and they swear by it. That's the best way to do it.
It's a good option. In fact, the house that they're at this year has a car. So they're just going to show up and they'll have the Airbnb and a car.
See, that's pretty cool. And again, it's convenience. You pay for it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you pay for it. But a lot of people do. I mean, hotel room there at the end of the runway is, what, $4,000 or more for the week. So
I've never done a hotel. You can actually get a hotel as well. Mm-hmm. I've never done that. There's not really a need for it.
No.
And you have it, and again, because of the price. For me, it's the experience of camping at Oshkosh.
Right.
If you call it camping, it's glamping.
Glamping.
But even the whole dorm thing, that was...
Well, you get that experience too, but you're dry. And, it's...
I was dry.
All the people that are in the dorms, they go to the cafeteria, which is a huge, food mecca. It's pretty decent food. And it's a good price.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So, you kind of get that camaraderie, and, you'll see people that you've... I mean, there's a guy that I see all the time. He always stays in the dorms. I always see him on the bus every year, awesome. And we never coordinate seeing each other. And he's lives here in Fort Worth, so cool. It's kind of funny.
When you do the dorm camping, and every one of these is a different experience, right? Mm-hmm. And everyone, like, you wouldn't camp in a tent, but I'm all for it next year. Just because I want the experience.
Yeah, you want to get waterlogged.
And then I'll realize this experience wasn't fun.
Like, Sean was right.
And Sean was right. And but again, even out there, like on the flight line, they have air-conditioned bathrooms.
Yeah.
and actual porcelain toilets that
Yeah.
my wife will refuse to do anything other than those commodes because they're air conditioned. They have sinks and they're nice.
Yeah, they're nice.
But then they also have showers like that as well that are in a trailer.
Yeah,
that
there's big
pull in.
Kohler trailers with the toilets
So
and the showers.
everyone's going to be
and
different.
they're air conditioned.
Everyone's going to be different, and you know, then you got U-Haul guy, that man, he enjoys that, and he comes by himself, and so those are the accommodation hacks that we have that we've experienced, and man, when you fly, what experience do you get when you're flying up? There's different airports that they provide food.
Yeah, different airports will have different either fuel specials or, you know, they're giving away free hot dogs. Going back, flying home last year, had to put her down for the weather, just kind of sit out, and it was, you know, getting towards scud running, and I just needed some time. So I landed at Fairfield, and I think it was FFL, but I mean, the guy comes over, and you know, it's kind of a long story, but I was setting up for base and final on this runway.
Time's up. I'm just kidding.
It was a 2-runway airport, and then I realized it's like this grass runway, and you know, and the other one was going through it, so I ended up just, you know, there was no one around, so I landed on the regular concrete runway. So I parked and everything, and there was a crop duster getting fuel, and the guy, somebody that worked there, was talking to him. Well, he started coming at me at a pretty brisk pace. I'm like, man, he's going to chew me out for not making the right calls for this runway. And anyway, he comes up to me, and I'm like, hey, how's it going? He's like, hey, I've got fresh sliced tomatoes from my garden. How do you like your burger cooked? I mean, just taking my order literally, and ran in there. I mean, there were a couple other guys, you know, that were heading home too, and I mean, we're eating these giant hamburgers with fresh tomatoes and drinks, and I mean, it was great.
I mean, that's part of aviation, right? There's places that they treat you well, and especially around Oshkosh too, because they know that people are going to be flying.
Yep.
So there are certain destination airports that you go,
it's like, oh, I want to stop at that one on the way up there.
Yeah, I remember when we flew the 3-ship, our buddy was like, oh, we got to stop here. And we get there, and there was burgers and chips and drinks, and it was like $5.
Yeah.
And the convenience of, again, when you're flying cross-country, the convenience of having food available where you don't have to get a car.
Sure.
And especially if you're in a plane like a single seat that we had, there wasn't much option to carry you. And so, yeah, and again, it's fun.
It's fun.
So learn that. I mean, if you're getting ready to fly, talk to different pilots and say, hey, you've got to
find out where they like to stop, and don't make it the same thing every year.
Yeah.
You know, explore a little bit.
Yep.
Go check out different FBOs, different groups of people, and I mean, it's just all kind of part of it.
I made a time lapse of our 17 flight up to Oshkosh, and it was super fun. But it notates. Well, I'll have to put that in the PIREP YouTube page, but it just notated those airports, and there was that one that just really stood out to me that was just really good, and so anyway, so it's fun. I mean, I think what's the best one that you've done, like getting up there? Which version? You haven't camped, brought an RV, but what version was your best experience?
I like flying myself in.
Okay.
And staying in the dorms.
Okay.
That to me is perfect. Now, the icing on the cake, this is another hack, is if you have a friend that's driving his big RV, you go buy a moped.
Yeah.
And you have him bring your moped up there, street legal moped. So I bought this moped, it was 5 years ago, something like that. And Cody took it up for me. And so I arrived, go back to camp, and now I have my moped, which is street legal, so I can drive myself to the dorms, you know, all over the place. So I had this small, you know, maneuverable transportation. That was the best setup.
Okay.
That was the best setup.
For me, I love my family. Who should not? We're pretty awesome people, and I love my children. My oldest, Chloe, she always says, ooh, this gives me Oshkosh vibes. So even in Minnesota, when all these planes were coming over, my cup was filled. My cup was filled with airplanes. And again, what was it? all these people. There was someone that came from North Dakota. There was someone that came from Canada. There's people that came from southern Minnesota. And they do this every night. Every once a month on a Thursday. I'm going to take this back. I'm going to start over. Once every Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m., random people just show up. They don't know that people are going to come in and who's going to come in and so on and so forth. And it's the people and playing. So I had my cup filled. But my favorite, I love my family, but my favorite was when we flew the Panther in. I would have loved to have been on shoulder, but for the ease of getting in and getting out and the time frame, because when I camp, it's a 4-day travel time. So we're at least gone. If we want to be there for 6 days, we're gone for 10. And that's
a big production.
40% of it is traveling. And that's too much for me.
Yep.
When I can fly and do it in 1 and save 3 days, that's why I'm like, I'll suffer. And heck, I might just say, let's bring the family in a dorm.
Yeah.
And
that would work out great.
And do that. You know? So, well, what we're going to do is we're going to get into the transportation side. We'll talk more about your moped and what we've done. But we'll get into that for the next podcast that we do in the next video.
We'll have to put a picture of the moped. We can't do it justice without a picture of what you.
Well, I have some videos. We'll have to do that. We'll do some videos and just every transportation that we've taken, because there's been quite a few.
I've got a pretty good video of Scott and I on the moped as well.
Oh yeah.
He won't like that one being public.
It's fantastic. So next video, check it out. It'll just kind of be more Oshkosh hacks of transportation, food, and just what to expect when you get there.
Little things that you can do.
Yeah.
And kind of go from there.
It's a good time.
But,
all right, guys.
Thanks for watching, and
check us out.
Check us out. Like and subscribe. Yeah. You know, we're trying to make our mark.
We got to build our following, guys, and you're a part of it.
Yeah, something different. You know, we're trying to be something a little bit different.
Yeah.
And we'd love for you to join us on the journey.
All right, guys.
Thanks for watching. Later.